Good morning, all. On behalf of the core team of the Camden Collaborative Initiative, I would like to welcome you all to the 2020 Camden Environmental Summit presented by New Jersey American Water. I am Mishka Mitchell, Vice President of Coopers Ferry Partnership, the backbone organization of the Camden Collaborative Initiative. Together with the City of Camden, the Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency, these organizations and agencies make up the core team of the Camden Collaborative Initiative, or CCI, as you will hear it commonly referred to during this summit. The 2020 summit, presented by New Jersey American Water, is also supported by the generous contributions of our principal sponsors, Pannoni and the Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority, and associate sponsors, Advanced Enviro Systems and the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters. The state of our world, our political systems, our social structures, and our planet are intersecting at a critical precipice. Perhaps we have already gone down the wrong path in many ways, but as the racial reckoning that has thrust itself into the national spotlight in the midst of this pandemic, there is no time like the present to get it right. And we, together, me, the accidental environmentalist, and you, our partners, our stakeholders, our friends, our constituents, are here together on this journey. In this season of thanks, I am thankful for the over 250 people that registered today for this summit, for the people that are watching live on Facebook, for the first responders who have been out during this pandemic on the front lines, keeping us all healthy and safe. And I am personally thankful for health, for my family, for love, and for Hallmark Christmas movies, which I've been watching a lot of. I am also thankful for the honor and privilege to pay homage to the ancestral lands of the Lenni Lenape peoples from where I bring you greetings today. I welcome you to introduce yourselves in the chat, to say hello with an acknowledgement to the lands, and let us know why you are thankful today. The chat will be open and monitored throughout the summit, so please use it. Use it to put your virtual reactions, to share a hand clap, to encourage our speakers, and for technical assistance if needed. As a tip, I recommend that you view the Zoom window in the full screen mode. Fully immerse yourself in this experience. Believe me, those emails can wait 2 hours. You will not regret it. It's certainly no secret that the city of Camden faces a host of environmental ills. Not in my backyard tactics, systemic racism, and its industrial path left Camden to be a literal and figurative dumping ground. Growing up in South Camden, these things were true. That smell outside on a hot summer day was enough to make you grimace, but not to stay inside. That you knew you were almost home on the highway when you saw that pinkish building with the smoke coming from the top, and that your neighborhood was gray and full of concrete. This was so true for me that I learned to attribute wealth with greenery. Now, I wasn't as eloquent as a child, but decades later, as an adult, I would wonder whether or not those experiences contributed to my own health problems or my daughter's asthma. And the residents of the city of Camden have been wondering the same thing. The Camden Collaborative Initiative was launched in 2013 to maintain, restore, and enhance the environmental resources in Camden to forge a new future for Camden's children. No, CCI was not the first to tackle Camden's environmental challenges. We stand on the shoulders of activists, organizations, and residents who have been sounding the alarm on the front lines longer than I have been alive. CCI is made possible by the efforts and resources of multiple partners that have voluntarily come together for proactive, holistic, and innovative solutions to help Camden become a vibrant, sustainable city. CCI is organized around 4 primary working groups that meet regularly on the topics of water resources, air quality, waste management, and land. A partnership between CCI's land and waste management working groups effectuated the cleanup of the largest urban illegal dumping hotspot in the state. CCI's water working group partners have completed 65 green infrastructure projects that capture nearly 65 million gallons of stormwater every year. And CCI partners, Coopers Ferry Partnership and the Trust for Public Land, recently completed the Camden Parks Plan, a roadmap for ensuring that all Camden residents have safe access to a high-quality park within a 10-minute walk of their home by 2050. These are just a few examples of CCI partners in action. Let's hear from a few more.
Camden Collaborative Initiative.
Camden Collaborative Initiative.
Camden Collaborative Initiative.
Camden Collaborative Initiative has really worked to tackle all of these environmental challenges to improve the quality of life of the citizens of Camden.
The Camden Collaborative Initiative has been all about this idea of finding multiple use benefits at sites like the Harrison Avenue landfill, where not only do we have a beautiful facility that serves over 8,000 area residents, but also manages stormwater sustainably.
We have been working collectively with CCI members to decrease the community's reliance on bottled water and educate residents about the various benefits of tap water, including affordability. Additionally, we have been focused on raising awareness and providing lead education materials to reduce potential exposures from indoor plumbing. These are just a few examples of how we have been working with the CCI to engage Camden residents.
We have illegal dumping efforts throughout the city, whether it be Camden Labs or a plethora of other sites throughout the city that we have tried to bring resources and funding into the city to help manage.
Since 2002, the Urban Airshed Reforestation Program has planted over 7,200 trees here in the city of Camden. So we are part of the CCI initiative and we are a proud partner.
Camden is rising because of the partnerships that we forge, from nonprofits to profit corporations, government to just ordinary residents, especially the Camden Collaborative when dealing with the environmental injustices in the city. I am grateful as mayor of the great city of Camden to have the partners that I have.
Partnership and collaboration are words that you're going to hear throughout this summit continuously, and it rings true for all the work that has been done to date through the partners of the Camden Collaborative Initiative. I'm happy to bring to you our opening remarks from the title sponsor of the Camden Collaborative Initiative's Camden Environmental Summit for 2020. Cheryl Norton is the president of New Jersey American Water. She also serves as Senior Vice President of the American Water's Eastern Division, which includes New Jersey and New York, and American Water's Chief Environmental Officer, overseeing environmental leadership and compliance across American Water's regulated and market-based businesses. She's also a member of the Board of Directors of Coopers Ferry Partnership. Here's remarks from Cheryl.
Good morning. As the president of New Jersey American Water, and as a board member of Coopers Ferry Partnership, I am so pleased to welcome you to the 2020 Camden Environmental Summit. This year's summit may look a little different. You may be joining us from your couch or your dining room table, next to your new home office mate, which could be a cat or a 10-year-old. You may be in a business suit or pajamas, but you are here with us. Despite the changes and challenges we're facing, your commitment to improving the environment in Camden and the quality of life of Camden residents has remained steadfast. And I can say with little hesitation, so has New Jersey American Waters and Cooper's Ferry Partnerships. I know Chris Clury and his entire team work day in and day out on quality of life issues that really matter to the residents here. What prompted me to join the board of Cooper's Ferry is the organization's Resident First focus. The summit provides a unique opportunity for residents, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, environmental advocates, green businesses, and government officials to unite under a common agenda for equity and inclusion in the environmental realm. This common agenda brings many of you together each month, now via Zoom, to dive deep into Camden's complex environmental challenges in order to develop innovative solutions together. New Jersey American Water is honored to be among the over 70 partners of the Camden Collaborative Initiative. Since we made Camden our home, we have deepened relationships, extended our involvement with great programs like the Camden Collaborative Initiative, all while upholding the highest standards in water quality. American Water is proud to provide clean, safe, high-quality drinking water to residents and businesses in Camden. We've been happy to participate in the CCI Water Working Group and to draft the Water Equity Roadmap for Camden with the Water Equity Task Force. We've supported community organizations and donated 440 computers with Computer Smiles to help bridge the technology gap. As a company, we are focused on ensuring that our core values continue to shine through in all that we do. An equitable future for Camden is one where the health of the land, air, and water meets the standards of excellence that we are all striving for. One project, one program, one partnership at a time, we are all working together toward a sustainable future for Camden. Please be safe and enjoy the summit.
Thanks so much, Cheryl, for those great opening remarks. Now we're all in for a great treat today. We have Pretty in Poetry, a group of students that have come together to bless you this morning with some of their own spoken word. Pretty in Poetry is comprised of Alea Dunlap in the 9th grade, Janalissa Moore and Jakaya Moore, both in the 8th grade. In middle school, they joined a writing club, which got them working on and performing poetry regularly. And after that writing club ended, they continued to write on their own and create an Instagram account to showcase some of their work. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Alea Dunlap.
Head held high, big strides, we are, we believe, we are pride. Every small action has a big consequence, and your small actions are impacting me. One bad apple can poison the whole tree. We walk on the pride lanes of those before us, fierceness in the eyes.
Our city is not a junkyard. It is a garden where beautiful flowers grow. Because a rose can grow from concrete, but from trash it will not show. The trash in the soil is causing turmoil, and the flowers to wilt. I've seen the streets covered in crushed cans. I've seen your trash turn to despair. I've seen the poison in the air. We want to reach the stars, but we can't see them anymore.
People are getting sick because of your indifference. Our children grow up in the dirt because you don't see our worth. Taught to never litter, but you're trashing our streets anyway. People fail to see the beauty in Camden, but it's all around us. Stop. Stop talking about the trash when you're the one who put it here.
Stop trashing our city when you don't take time to see its beauty.
Stop thinking we're your open trash can, because there's so much more you don't take the time to see.
We are rising.
We are the future.
We are Camden.
Yes, indeed. You are Camden. What a wonderful message from these great students about respecting the place that they call home. Camden is more than a dumping ground. This is something that we've continued to see and hear as we continue to move forward. Projects like the A New View Camden project to highlight that the perception of the city of Camden as a dumping ground is something that we will not tolerate anymore. Thank you again to Pretty in Poetry for those lovely words. And I welcome you all to follow them on Instagram at prettyinpoetry_. Now, without further ado, we bring to you the Camden Collaborative Initiative's greatest champion. Is without Francisco Frank Moran, the City of Camden's mayor, that we are able to do the work that we do. He is, in fact, a great partner, an advocate, and a steward for all the work that CCI does to make the City of Camden a better place, to improve the quality of life for its citizens. You can see it in his smile when he's out in the park doing cleanups with us, when he's cleaning up at illegal dumping sites, or when he's advocating for policies that help to contribute to the improvement of the environment. Without further ado, here's Camden Mayor Frank Moran.
Good morning to all of our friends, old and new, participating in the Camden Environmental Summit today. The summit brings together a diverse cross-section of organizations and groups, from government to the environment to arts and business, together with the residents of our city to improve the quality of life today and every day for future generations. And although the pandemic has kept us apart, you all have continued to meet virtually to tackle the very important work of improving the environment in the city of Camden. As mayor, the past 7 months have been challenging, and as the impacts of COVID-19 have devastatingly hit our community, infecting residents of all ages, even hitting close to home in my own family. And our fight against the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. COVID-19 has again highlighted the environmental injustices in communities like Camden all over the country. But as you all know, the pandemic is only the tip of the iceberg. And there are years of environmental injustices brought about by structural racism under the surface. I am committed to opportunity for all. Inclusive prosperity is more than a buzzword. I am working hard to ensure that Camden is generating opportunities for all its residents, as well as Camden's economy. And improvements to the environment will be a critical component to our lasting success. That is why it is an honor to work with the Camden Collaborative Initiative to develop new innovative solutions to these complex challenges. I am committed to continue to work with all of you to provide all of Camden's citizens with clean air, clean water, beautiful open spaces, relief from localized flooding, reprieve from illegal dumping, and safeguards for climate change. If you follow the City of Camden on social media or in the news, you may have seen some of our recent efforts to combat illegal dumping. While illegal dumping has historically been an issue in the city, with pandemic home renovations on the rise, so has the amount of dumping. We are set to surpass the high of $4 million as the largest amount of money that the city has paid to properly dispose of waste illegally dumped in our city. Can you imagine what the city could do if it did not have to pay to clean up other people's trash? I can. With $4 million, the city could patch 26,000 potholes, install 16 new state-of-the-art playgrounds with enhanced safety surface, or plant 2,600 trees. Or we could install 1.6 miles of new water mains, reconstruct 1.3 miles of sewer, or separate 1 mile of combined sewer system. Illegal dumping has become a perpetual cycle and is indicative of many of Camden's other environmental concerns. In the past, today is a new day in Camden. The team up cleanup campaign has been a hallmark program of my administration because I recognize the detrimental impact that blight has on Camden communities. Joining together to clean up a vacant lot is a metaphor for the partnerships that are required to tackle the formidable environmental challenges that we still face. Progress has been made. Progress is being made, but there is still much work to do. I would like to offer my congratulations to the Camden environmental heroes that will be honored later in the program for doing the work. I'm glad that you're getting your much-deserved recognition. And to all of the other unsung heroes, so many of you that have been on the front lines for years advocating for environmental justice, join us. Join the Camden Collaborative Initiative as we work toward a resilient Camden. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for all of your support, for the partnerships, for all of the people in your office and administration that work closely with us every day in order to get this work done. We get keynote speaker suggestions from many places, from articles we've read, from news programs that we've seen, and recommendations from you, our partners. But not many times do we get multiple recommendations for the same person. So when the name Dr. Drew Lanham was recommended to us several times, there were two things that I knew. One was that I hoped that he was going to be available, and two, that I immediately needed to get his book. So I just finished reading a few weeks ago, The Home Place, Memoirs of a Colored Man's Love Affair with Nature, a few weeks ago. And this was one of the quotes that stood out to me, that place and land and nature, how we tie these things together, is critical to our sense of self-purpose and our fit in the world. They are the Trinity. I am pleased today to bring to you as our keynote address, Dr. Drew Lanham, a native of Edgefield, South Carolina. Drew Lanham is the author of The Home Place, which received the Reed Award from the Southern Environmental Law Center and the Southern Book Prize, and was a finalist for the John Burroughs Medal. He is a birder, naturalist, and hunter conservationist who has published essays and poetry in publications, including Orion, Audubon, Flycatcher and Wilderness, and in several anthologies, including The Colors of Nature, State of the Heart, Bartram's Living Legacy, and Carolina Writers at Home. An alumni distinguished professor of wildlife ecology and master teacher at Clemson University, he and his family live upstate of South Carolina, a soaring hawk's downhill glide from the southern Appalachian escarpment that the Cherokee once called the Blue Wall. Without further ado, I am pleased to present to you all Dr. Drew Lanham. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mishka, and thank you everyone for being there, for being here, for being in this virtual space. It's a pleasure to join you this morning and to talk to you about our kindred mission, let's call it this mission to conserve, to save, to think about not just our lives, but the lives of our brothers, our sisters, our others, our wild, the wild beings that we share this earth with. I'm here in South Carolina, which is a mostly rural state still, and you're there in Camden or perhaps in surrounding areas that aren't so rural. But in the end, really, we're all the same in so many ways that you'll hear me say as we travel together through this story that I'm about to tell you, that we share same air, same water, same soil, the same earth, and ultimately the same fate. And in that, whether I am here in the upstate of South Carolina in a soaring hawk's glide from the Blue Ridge, or you're in Camden, New Jersey, and just a diving peregrine stoop from New York City and one of the most diverse and largest metropolises in the world, we all depend upon the same resources. We all depend upon that clean air, that clean water, this one earth that we have to steward. And I'd like to talk maybe a little bit how we think about that, how we go forward in ways that bring us together in that, under that context. And hopefully as we go forward into a new year, past 2020 and past some not so good times, I'm hopeful that we can find some better times. And then in finding those better times, we don't go back to an old normal, that we find a new way to be as conservationists and stewards. So I'd like to think that as our collective balances sort of hang each day, that as we are bounded by personal and professional challenges, these internal and external stresses that are absolutely tremendous on us, that we watch as the nature around us here and there is being besieged, as it's being marginalized, as it's being collected and coveted and cornered by a privileged few, that we all watch as many of the wild places and green and all that we depend on are made more uncertain. I ponder the condition of this one earth we share and the stresses that we impose upon her and that we impose upon one another and that we impose upon the wild things. And so, called by something that moves me to think constantly about our shared fate, I want to join with you this morning who've gathered from these different places, these different corners of Camden or of South Carolina or wherever we are, that we think more ecologically enlightened in ways, that as we think about Marvin Gaye's beautiful song, that mournful song of the ecology and Mercy, Mercy Me, that things ain't what they used to be, but things are what they are, but that we can somehow make them better. And so I'm humbled to be here with you, to be able to talk to you about how we might do that our old normal becomes something better. But as a scientist, I've come to realize that in the past few years, really, as social media has ramped up, as we have paid attention to headlines and breaking news, that we've really done a poor job of bringing the news of this earth and the importance of the natural resources and the shared responsibilities of stewarding those resources. We've done a pretty poor job of bringing those forward. And instead of us embracing the wonders of this world and embracing the science, we've taken these important pieces of information and we've either made them inaccessible to the public, or we've outright denied that the science is important. We've denied the importance, the critical importance of a warming earth. We've denied, in many cases, the importance of masks for our faces to protect our fellow human beings, our neighbors, our friends, our family, from the pestilence of this pandemic. And so this is part of the reasoning for my reaction, to have us think more broadly about conservation in a way that broadens this conservation conversation, that takes us from simply thinking to acting, that takes us from mourning the bad to a mission to make things good, that even during these worst of times, we can do better. And so I think there is something that's been missing. I think there is something that's unmeasurable really in all of this, that's even maybe unpublishable, as important as that is as scientists in getting the information out. There's something that's missing from this process we call conservation. And so I charge that we must refine the art in the science of what we're doing, that we have to recalibrate and think about this same air, same water, same soil, same earth, same fate in a new sort of collective way. Indeed, if an ounce of soil, a single sparrow, an acre of forest, or a patch of green space or whole food is to remain, then we have to look at the hearts of the masses as well as our heads to push things forward. For the sake of saving wild things, for the sake of saving human beings, the traction has to come not from just this regurgitation of the data that tells the bad news. We have to take that bad news and we need to both inform and inspire. That news has to come not just from the professors, but it has to come from the poets. It has to come from prophets. It has to come from preachers. And yes, it has to come from presidents, from environmental educators, from citizens, from all of us who dare to inspire. Eco-prophet Aldo Leopold said that our ability to perceive the pretty in nature begins as an art with that beautiful. It expands through successive stages of the beautiful to values as yet uncaptured by language. And so, my friends, I would argue that heart and head cannot be exclusive of one another in this mission that we have to set forth on. As the mayor so eloquently stated, these are shared missions. These are shared values that this desire, this requisite for clean air, clean water in the face of climate change is a challenge that we do not have a choice of meeting. It is one of the great missions, if not the great mission of our time. I would like to think that helping others to connect heart and mind together to help them understand this mission is like helping them understand that the earth itself is this living, breathing superorganism, this giant, revolving, evolving celestial being with ecosystems that act as the organs, and the living things within these ecosystems, us included, we are its cells. And so no organism exists, survives, much less thrives without those cells being at some level of health and functioning. And so it's my hope that we might move others to find within themselves, within each of us, some magnification of nature, some magnification of this mission to steward, of this mission to take same air, same water, same soil, same earth, and understand our joined fates. And so the way ahead for us really lies in lessons, in part, that we are learning daily. This sort of selflessness that we have to understand, that what we do in masking or remaining socially distant is in ways, I would argue, a bit of personal policy. And I would say too, a bit of peaceful protest, a way to say, I'm going to go against the norm and do what's best for all. And so in thinking about how we go forward, we have to see ourselves as agents of social change. When one studies the evolution, really, of conservation and environmentalism in this country, we see a history of First Nations and those first people, those native peoples who occupied the land and living in abundance and stewarding in ways that sustained them, that sustained communities, that sustained cultures through thousands and thousands of years. And then we saw the result of colonialism and colonization and manifest destiny. We looked at decades of wanton waste and spiraling rates of degradation and extinction. And we did see some reckoning, people who recognized that there were issues, that there were problems, that we needed to think about how we treated the earth, as well as thinking about how we treat one another. But yet, even as we recognize this, we continued on the path to destruction. We continued on these paths of degradation and of disrespect, not only of nature, but of one another. And even in the worst of times, there were those who recognized that we needed to do better. And so I want us to think about the environmental degradation, but I also want us to think about the disrespect of cultures, of indigenous peoples, the enslavement of my ancestors who helped to build this country in bondage. And all the while, the earth is being disrespected as humanity is being disrespected. Quite honestly, a great part of it is our history in this nation. It unfortunately is who we are. History is past, as someone would once said, but I would like to argue not really. What we knew and what we saw before, and all of this degradation and all of this disrespect of species being driven to extinction, of habitats being destroyed, of water and air being sullied and dirty, of human beings being killed and biased and prejudiced, that we have to see that history in part as we exist now. It's part of our story, but how do we leverage the past and our present to better? Contrary to what many think, I know that we can be better. To conserve really is at the root of us. It is now not just a choice, once again, it is a necessity. It is the mission going forward for us to think about conservation in a very different way, to not just think about the wildness, which is vitally important, but for us to think about our urban spaces, for us to think about same air, same water, same soil, same earth, same fate. And so it's helpful to think about the good that's gone on in the midst of all of this bad, to think about the worst of times and the good that sometimes came out of them, to think about those poets and those prophets who were able to see beyond and to imagine what it would take to move to something better. And so I want you to imagine now what it will take to go forward. What was, what is, and what will be? What changed from worse to better? Consider the historical context. Consider this track of degradation and disrespect. How did we save anything at all? How did we survive through any of it? Have we advanced at all? Have we backslid, or are we just barely holding ground? What do we do now is the question. So I would propose that as we are gathered here in this virtual space, in the midst of a pandemic, the likes of which we have not seen for over a century, that we consider ourselves in this mission together, that we are tasked with this responsibility to teach, to reach, to connect, and to conserve. That conservation has at its core this mission to love and to care. It means that what we do, that stewarding this earth, whether it's grasslands, wetlands, forests, shorelines, city parks, and greenways, and backyard gardens, that sustainably nurturing, conserving wildlife, wherever it may be, is our mission. So we have to have our heads in the game and thinking and promoting the best science and not denying the data. But we have to take that science and we have to translate it into some evocative feeling, something that is relevant, not only to me here in rural South Carolina, but also to Camden, from the East Coast to the West Coast and globally. We must communicate this mission. We must feel this mission. We must act on the mission. We must, each of us, be the mission. Do we truly understand what this means, though, that wrapped in the responsibility of conservation is this privilege, again, of love? And love is one of those qualities that is both privilege and necessity, that we have to have it in order to act responsibly and to care for those others who we may not even know. Privilege and responsibility. Do we truly grasp our place as part and parcel of nature, that all of this history that has gone on before us, bitter as it may have been, with little bitty spots of sweet mixed in, to understand that we are not separate from that history, we are not separate from the land, that we are part and parcel of it, that we are tied in tight as members and neighbors and cohabitators, that we stand shoulder to shoulder with one another, that we stand shoulder to wing with the birds that we watch, that we stand shoulder to wing, to fur to fin with all the living beings. I would ask that we find somehow this indomitable grit and this psychosociological carrying capacity to do better than history says that we have done. That as we descend at times into these unknowable places of plague and pestilence and political intractability and denial, that we pull each of ourselves up to become a micro personal protest and movement. that in these worst of times, we somehow find the bits of hope and care and move forward, not in the old normal, but in a new way. Each time you put your mask on, it's personal policy. And I would argue that each time you do that, it's an act of love. Each time you make the decision for now not to hug, not to shake a hand, to stay at home when we can, that you are making a decision to steward wisely, to love. I think we know what's at stake here. It's why we have gathered. It's why we do what we do. In the midst of this time, this worst of times that will go down in history, unfortunately, with hundreds of thousands having passed on, that we must think more broadly. I would like for us to think beyond the dollars and cents and bottom line that we know is critical. I want us to think about long-term investment as well as our personal policy. There is no get-rich-quick scheme in this line of conservation and environmental work that we do. There is, however, this long-term, remembered, enrich scheme, this enriching scheme with each sunrise and investment, that our stocks rise with each dawn chorus of birds that we hear. It's amortized in whole foods that feed our bodies in our neighborhoods, that as we begin to think about this shared mission of same air, same water, same soil, same earth, same fate, that in sharing these fates with one another that transcend our race or ethnicity or gender, non-gender binary status, or our regionality, or even our political affiliation, that our love and care and ability to steward beyond these worst of times will be the marker that we put down in history. And so it'll demand, yes, that we stand on the bedrock of all the bad to make things better. It also means that we can no longer be sort of this closed, homogenized carton of sameness, that we have to expand this conservation conversation beyond who's told all the stories before. That conservation and environmentalism has to be a more colorful and inclusive endeavor. That we can't just talk about great white polar bears drowning in Arctic seas because of climate change, but we have to talk about little black boys and little brown girls and little red children on reservations dying because the same bad air that is drowning white polar bears is killing children of color. Same air, same water, same soil, same earth, same fate. Whether it's the bear's being or our human being, we must all consider our shared destinies. And so I propose again that we not see conservation and environmentalism in the same old ways, that we have to build on what was, that yes, we have to consider wildness, that we consider these far away places, these far-flung places that thrill our imaginations, but we must bring the message back closer to home. And how much closer can we get than our own mirror? That in putting that mirror up to our faces and seeing ourselves in those reflective moments, we must understand that we are looking at the first step in new policy. Each person can become a micro protest. Social movement does begin in the mirror, in so much as we recognize that something is wrong in the way of policy or practice. When I can't turn on my spigot and get clean water and someone living just across the tracks can, that's wrong. When decisions are made to build factories upwind of me so that the toxic flumes blow into my communities and choke my children, as people who live on the other side of the river breathe clean air, something has to change. And so conservation, environmentalism must become movements. They must become acts of mission to steward for all. That environmental justice and civil rights cannot be separate, but they have to be inextricably linked on the same track. And so seeing that history, seeing our present, understanding our future, these are questions that we have to ponder daily. And first, looking at ourselves in the mirror and understanding our role. Understanding that the air that we breathe must be clean, that the water that we drink must be clean. Understanding all of these is our mission. And so I want you to imagine all of this happening with each person that you reach, each person that you teach, every day by ones as we isolate, but then thinking of the messages that we send forward on social media or the conversations that we have. Social movements always begin within, and I would offer that this next conservation and environmental movement must move forward in the same way. So I challenge each of you to go forward and expand this progressive self-environmental assessment and conservation ethic into yourself and then expand it beyond. You are an activist now, and the world around you can never, ever be the same. There is no going back to this old normal, but a new, better, past this worst of times to better. So that as we share same air, same water, same soil, same earth, and same fate, we can say, mercy, mercy me, in a very different kind of way. I'm so thankful to you for having me here this morning to speak to you there. And I look forward to us connecting and talking about our shared fate and how we can move better to better days. Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Panelist, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much. Can we please get a virtual hand clap for Dr. Lanham? I think that is the thing that I miss the most about being in person, is that we aren't able to pay our tributes and be able to show appreciation for people when we are happy with what we've seen and heard. So I certainly wrote down many gems from that presentation, with the first being is that we must be the mission individually. So we will be taking questions in the Q&A function of the chat. So if you look down on your Zoom, there is a Q&A box, so separate from the chat box. So if you have a question for Dr. Lanham, please enter it there, and we will be able to facilitate this Q&A session. So again, thank you, Dr. Lanham, for being with us today. We are getting some great stuff here in our chat. So I'll just get the ball rolling here. First question: how can traditional environmental organizations partner with underserved communities to strengthen their voice?
Great question. One of the first things that I advise is that organizations have to look first at their mission. You can't have silver bullet expectations with silver plated intentions. You can't suddenly decide that you want everything fixed tomorrow when you go back and look at your mission and your vision, and there's nothing in it that commits you as an organization to being more inclusive and diverse. You can't expect to harvest fruits when you haven't planted seeds. And so in the way that these organizations say they want to be diverse, I mean, the old saying goes, first let me look at your checkbook and I'll tell you what your mission is. And if your mission is bent toward the same thing, if you aren't putting money on the ground and moving some known mission forward, then your intentions are silver plated. So organizationally, look first in the mirror. Hold the mirror up to the organization and understand who the organization is. Many of these organizations are sort of steeped in good old boyism, and they will remain the same until the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of changing. So we have to patronize those people who put their passion into inclusion and diversity, who do what they say they're going to do. For those who simply say and don't do, we have to pull back from them. So I always ask, what's your mission? What's your vision? And if I can't see myself in that mission and that vision, then we have to have conversations from the root. And then we can move outward.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I certainly love the metaphor about, things really starting in the mirror. Takes me back to one of my clearly favorite Michael Jackson songs, of course, right? About the man in the mirror, which has the same message, but social movements and all of the work, it begins in the mirror, and taking sort of a mirror also to the organization to say, what really is the mission and vision about what we have going on and are trying to achieve. Other question: what was the aha moment that propelled you into your purpose?
The aha moment for me, I think, really was losing my family land, and understand that I had taken for granted most of my childhood, certainly, what it meant to be connected to land. And it's that old saying of not missing the water till the well runs dry. And in that instance, that aha moment of going back home after I'd gone to college and my father had died, and the land had been deforested, and the creeks that we used to fish in were muddy, and the springs where we used to get our drinking water had been caved in. And so the land in some ways had been ravaged. It was a moment for me of understanding that I did not want this to happen to others. I did not want others to feel devastated as I felt. And so that was an aha moment for me in sort of this, in this worst of times. But then on the good side, the aha moments for me occur every day when I see birds and the freedom of birds, or I hear the birds singing that wake me up in the morning, and that those birds, day after day, for all the struggles that they face, many of which we humans put in front of them, that those birds persist. So each time I see a bird fly, whether it be a pigeon or a peregrine falcon, I'm inspired to try to lift myself up and to do more.
That's beautiful. And I won't give away too much from your book because there's people in the chat saying they just ordered it. But I say one thing that struck me in reading that is the comparison between, I think, our upbringings and you saying, even though you were there on the land, that you sort of took it for granted. And, I would say in growing up in my area of Camden, where things were, much more concrete, that I felt so disconnected to the land. I had no touch with the land at all until I became an adult. And so now trying to go back and now get in touch with the land in a different way from my upbringing. Two last questions. Can you tell us the characteristics of those communities that have been successful protecting the environment compared to those that have not?
The characteristics are, again, sort of understanding who you are. And I look at communities, I think of communities who say, this is our history. Understanding your history is essential. And in order to be successful on life's journey, you have to understand from whence you've come. And so you can't be in denial of who it is that you are. And understanding that. So, for example, here in the South, it's obvious when you go on some land or you see a plantation house what that history was, and understanding that bitter history. And every time I see that, I say, you know what, my ancestors earned the right. They worked hard for my right to be here. And so even though I may not own title and deed to every acre of land, philosophically, I do. My right to be here and to claim the land is really my birthright. So successful communities know who they are, where they come from, they understand current situation, and then sort of organizationally, they have some vision. Now, those visions are often tied up. I look at processes of gentrification with Black and brown land, for example, where people are moved away from identity. They're moved away from identity. So if you're in a bad situation and you're downstream of dirty water or polluted air, and knowing that situation, it means that you then have to take action and go to the to community meetings. You have to talk to your politicians, those people who represent you, and say, you know what? As a community, we demand better. We demand better. And so when we look in the mirror, we look at ourselves and say, you know what, today I demand better. I demand not to be mistreated. I demand better for myself. You cannot demand better for a community until you demand better for self. And so again, I say every policy, whether it involves millions or 10, involves us looking in the mirror and saying, there's got to be better. So those successful communities come together and they say, we can't be who we were. We demand better than we are. And so we're going to demand of those people who represent us that better be done. And if that better is not done, then we'll find somebody who is going to represent us in the way that we demand to be represented. Ergo, November 2020. So thinking about that as a community, I think, is important. Organizing. But first, understand that you demand better of yourself.
Thank you for that. And the last question we'll have is about, who are your mentors?
Wow, so many. Let me say this. I think about my mentors. I grew up with my grandmother who taught me so much. And there have been all sorts of people in my life who've mentored me. Many unexpectedly who look nothing like me, aren't Black, white people who've helped me along. but by and large, I think about the factors in my life, who the sort of warm winds at my back pushing me, and at times those people who've been the truth tellers in my life pulling me. And overwhelmingly, it's been women. Women who have seen in me the promise of something sometimes that maybe I didn't see. Women who at times who have been able to say, you know, you can do this. Who at times have said, you know, truth is you need to step forward and be better at this or that. So there are so many names, but I think about the strong, powerful women who have given me encouragement, who have stood behind me and pushed, who've stood in front of me and led, who've stood beside me and sort of, again, encouraged. So I like to give that shout out to all those women in my life who've surrounded me and helped me to become who it is that I am, but also encourage me daily to be better.
Well, thank you so much for your remarks today, Dr. Lanham. I think we all have been able to take some gems home to be able to push us forward on our own personal missions as we look in the mirror each day and figure out how we want to start the day and contribute really to making the environment a better place. Certainly, I think all of us, I wish we had more time with you this morning, but we're happy that we were able to have you join us virtually for this discussion. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for having me there. I would challenge you again, you know, just daily start off asking yourself the one thing that I can do to make this world a better place. And that first starts with just thinking I can be better in some small way today. And that's a movement.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Take care, folks. Be safe.
All right, so let's all give another virtual hand clap to Dr. Lanham. If there was one phrase or gem or thing that really stood out for you, please, I offer you to put it in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's been using the chat so far this morning, sharing why you're thankful, sharing your thoughts about what's happening in the summit. We are at the midway point of the summit today, clearly, which is an abbreviated summit this year. So if now is the time that you need to take a break, feel free to go, you know, refill your water, refill your cup of coffee, you know, take a break, or you can stay with us and join us right now for a moment of Zen as we try to center ourselves, relax a little bit, get a little stretch happening as we go forward.
And welcome back to this space. So that's it. So just a brief meditation, bringing your attention to your body, to ground yourself, to stay very secure and confident and in your position, who you are and what you're doing. And like Doctor was saying, this is something so small that you can do today that's going to not only help you, but help your community get bigger, better, stronger together. So stay intentional, stay amazing, and stay grateful. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much, James. As we're all coming back and being welcomed back to the summit, again, welcome back. We are going to continue with our program today. This is the 2020 Camden Environmental Summit presented by New Jersey American Water. We are happy to have with us today to give remarks from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, another member of the core team of CCI. Olivia Glenn, she serves as Deputy Commissioner of New Jersey DEP, prioritizing the advancement of the administration's environmental justice and equity goals. As Deputy Commissioner, Olivia chairs the Community Collaborative Initiative Steering Committee and is responsible for environmental justice, diversity, and environmental education. She's a former recipient of the Camden Environmental Hero Award from this summit, and she too is a Camden native. Welcome, Olivia.
Hello, I am Olivia Glenn, and I am the Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Justice and Equity at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. As a Camden native myself, I am delighted to join you here virtually at the Camden Environmental Summit with a focus on environmental equity. I spent a great deal of my professional life dedicated to ensuring that every New Jerseyan has access and opportunity to enjoy natural resources and a higher quality of life. And collaborating with communities is a critical part of New Jersey DEP's mission to ensure that New Jersey is stronger and fairer for all. Today, we are here at the former Harrison Avenue landfill, which is now being transformed into the Kramer Hill Waterfront Park. This project is a testimony of what can happen when a community and a government work together to transform a community burden into a community asset. We are living in a defining moment in every way, from the COVID-19 health emergency to the disparities it has illuminated. Despite the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, New Jersey has remained committed to the promise we made to our overburdened communities. I'd like to touch on our overall environmental justice for a moment, particularly our recent victory with New Jersey's new environmental justice law. On September 18th, New Jersey became the first state in the nation to pass a statewide environmental justice law. The law is the nation's strongest measure to protect overburdened communities from pollutants and gives residents in those communities a voice in what happens in their neighborhoods. The new law requires DEP to evaluate the environmental and public health impacts of certain facilities on overburdened communities when reviewing certain permit applications. In addition to the law, New Jersey just completed an environmental justice guidance document in accordance with Executive Order 23, which provides a process for all state government agencies to work together to include environmental justice in decision-making processes. In Camden, our Community Collaborative Initiative staff joined with local leaders and DEP experts to jumpstart the transformation of the 86-acre Harrison Avenue landfill. The work occurred in two parts. The first was the closure of 24 acres and the building of the Ray and Joan Kroc Salvation Army Community Center on the property. The multi-use facility has gymnasiums, swimming pools, a chapel, a theater, a food distribution center, and so much more. On the remaining 62 acres, we are closing and transforming that section of landfill into a restored shoreline and uplands with improvements such as new tidal wetlands, recreational amenities, and a solar field. Whether it's other partners like the city, county, and US EPA, or local partners like the Camden Power Corps, DEP is delighted to be a part of this vital work at this critical moment in time. We want you to know that we are fully committed to listening and collaborating with our communities in order to make needed and wanted improvements. This project is just one of many that truly represents what we can accomplish when we work together. Have a great summit.
Thank you so much, Olivia. We will now have remarks from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. One of the hallmarks of the CCI is that we have partners working at the table from all walks of life and all levels of government, from local government, county, state, to our federal partners, working closely hand in hand with nonprofit organizations and residents on a regular basis. Pete Lopez serves as the Regional Administrator for EPA Region 2, which includes the states of New York and New Jersey, the Commonwealths of Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and 8 tribal nations. Prior to joining EPA Region 2 in October 2017, Pete served as a member of the New York State Assembly, where he served for over 10 years and 6 terms, successfully addressing flooding, recovery issues, creating jobs, and both supporting and advocating for children, families, teachers, schools, businesses, family farms, and more. He's joining us today by phone, so welcome Pete Lopez, Regional Administrator of EPA Region 2.
Hi, my friend. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you just fine.
Oh, great. God bless. Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to join with you. And I just want to say that in my work with EPA, our work with Camden and other communities, environmental justice communities, has been really a highlight of our engagement. And for me, it's been a personal privilege. So first I want to thank the Collaborative, of course, for hosting the event. And also to thank Cooper's Ferry for their partnership as a catalyst. And a shout out to the mayor. Of course, I know he addressed you earlier. But for me, just from my background, I'm the son of a subsistence farmer from Puerto Rico. And the whole premise of being able to be part of something that's protective of the environment, but also is protective of our communities, and works in a way that it lifts individuals and our communities up is something we're celebrating. So here we come together, we collaborate, but we support empowerment, we support self-determination, and to be able to put that all together and achieve environmental outcomes is just a very powerful and dynamic engagement. And it's so all of us, and I know I speak for my colleagues in the same breath, we all feel very honored to have this relationship with Camden and to be part of helping strengthen the fabric of the community. I just want to highlight, of course, we know the challenges that you face. We focused on the illegal dumping as a serious problem. And we know Camden will be spending over $4 million to clean up illegal dumping this year, more than any other year. We know that that's a huge problem for the community. Recently, in 2018, I had a chance to visit the Camden Labs dump site and was able to see firsthand the magnitude of the challenges there. And this site, of course, this brownfield site, almost a 4-acre property with mangled exterior and caved-in roofs. Property was used for illegal dumping as well. And today, it's being demolished. It's cleaned and will be transformed into an open space for community use. The lab was a priority site for brownfield reuse, and that really was catalyzed after the city received over $13 million in housing and urban development choice neighborhood implementation grant. So it's not just EPA, it's other federal agencies, and of course, in this case, we know that there's a potential for use of opportunity zones to leverage additional investment. Here, we've awarded 2 grants to Cooper's Ferry Partnership, and the first was the North Camden Community-Wide Brownfield Assessment Project, helping clean up and develop the North Camden Waterfront Park and other priority development sites. And again, here in this case, that'll facilitate creation of new waterfront trails and parks and opportunities for affordable housing and opportunities for other community assets. We're also focused on the Leading with Lead, which addresses the disproportionate amount of lead levels that Camden residents have been exposed to. And here, comprehensive and community-driven approach to target lead exposure in multiple forms, including, importantly, in water and lead in paint. In this regard, we know Camden's been a national leader in the implementation of green infrastructure. And work in Camden was recently highlighted with the Green Streets case study document released in August, just this year, that was developed with EPA support. It's not just EPA, and again, we mentioned other federal partners, but of course, with our local colleagues, New Jersey DEP plays a critical role, and we're happy to hear from our colleague from the department. And in case of the permitting program, GIPDs, it's a critically important pathway to reducing water quality impacts with stormwater and rain events and potential area flooding. So we're committed to working with DEP for the development of stormwater permits that protect Camden and communities like Camden. Also, we know that New Jersey DEP has a program, their Community Collaborative Initiative, which has identified 12 focus communities, and we look forward to working with the department as they focus on Camden and other communities in need. So again, I'll just begin or end where I began is that serving with you and working with you and for you is a privilege, and it's something that we treasure. It's again, in the many challenges that we face, to be able to come together, to share our knowledge, our resources, to give freely of our time and energy to helping lift our neighbors is something that is it's incredibly rewarding, and it's really, we heard from our speaker, it's really something that is a model for the rest of our nation. So God bless you, and thank you for allowing us to be part of your work here in the community. So thanks again.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. We appreciate your assistance and all of your staff that is with us on a regular basis. It is my favorite part of the program today, and that is the time where we get to acknowledge the Camden Environmental Heroes for 2020. Each year, through nominations from the public, our partners and agencies and residents, people are nominated that exemplify what an environmental hero is. People who go above and beyond the call of duty, that are here in their communities, that are encouraging others and inspiring others to do more to help their communities every day. And this year we have 3 winners to present to you. The first is Miss Jackie Santiago from North Camden. She's lived in Camden for most of her life. After being diagnosed with cancer, Jackie moved back home to Camden to be near her support system. Upon her return, she noticed the large amount of empty and derelict lots in her North Camden neighborhood and decided to get involved. Jackie's motto and hashtag, "We Are Better Together," is a demonstration of her philosophy. Her goal is to be infectious by showing others how working together with agencies, volunteers, and residents can bring positive change to the community. Jackie's work focuses on urban gardens, including providing a sanctuary for monarch butterflies and addressing illegal dumping in order to provide safe places for kids to play. Jackie's work is inspiring and has encouraged others in her neighborhood to follow her lead. Here's some remarks from Jackie.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Santiago. I just want to thank you so much for the award for Environmental Hero. I am completely honored, but I do have to say that a lot of the things that I do is not because of me by myself. I do have a lot of partners that I work with, like Camden Lutheran Housing, New Jersey Tree Foundation, New Jersey Conservation Society, even Cooper's Point School. I got a lot of kids that come over and help me out with that stuff. And most of the things that I do here at this park and other places in North Camden is I try to take empty lots and I revitalize them and we turn them into areas where families can use them. I want to be able to have safe urban green spaces that at the same time is taking care of a lot of the stormwater damage that we're having here in Camden. And as you can see in right here, we've installed a lot of trees on this section. We have a lot of flowers, a lot of greenery, and it also reduces the heat index for your block, you know. So it not only is it aesthetically beautiful, but it's a place for everybody to congregate. At this pocket park, I do not close it off. This does not belong to me. It is open to all the residents here in Camden. Anybody can come here and just relax and enjoy, which we actually do. A large person, also the people that help me are the actual kids that live on this block, do help me recycle all of the materials that are here, that, you know, the floating trash that we get, and my family as well, they also help me out. So a lot of the things that I do, yeah, they're great, but I cannot do it without the support of my community.
Jackie's work has meant a lot to the North Camden community, and her smile and her work and being around her is infectious and will make you want to just do more and do more. Our second recipient for Environmental Hero is Mike Morgan. Mike Morgan has lived in Camden for 10 years. In that time, there have been many issues that he's come to care about. When Mike became a parent a few years ago, it made him even more aware of air pollution and its health impacts on our kids and ourselves, particularly in his Waterfront South neighborhood. Backyard chats with neighbors turned into questions like, "Did you see that air pollution the other night?" Mike's citizen science project, which you'll learn about later, analyzing current truck traffic, is a small step in addressing air pollution. Mike believes that residents can take an active role in learning about social determinants of health to improve the environment in Camden. Congratulations, Mike.
My name is Mike Morgan. Thank you very much for the Environmental Hero Award. I live in Waterfront South in South Camden, which is a neighborhood that experiences a lot of different types of pollution, air pollution especially, particulate matter, amongst other things. And I participate in the air quality group of Camden Collaborative Initiative, both as a resident and through Rutgers School of Nursing, Camden, where I work. And a project that we took on this year was a citizen science project, both monitoring the amount of illegal trucking on Ferry Avenue in our residential neighborhood, as well as monitoring the pollution of black carbon from diesel exhaust, which we did with help from New Jersey DEP. Thank you again, and please join us at our monthly meetings, which happen each second Tuesday of each month.
Congratulations, Mike. We're happy to present our last environmental hero for 2020 to the Parkside Business and Community and Partnerships Parkside Learning Garden. The Parkside Learning Garden is a community facility connecting residents to routes to markets, free gardening programming, nutrition and cooking activities, and a variety of arts, cultural, and business events. Constructed and maintained by Parkside Business and Community and Partnership in 2015, the Parkside Learning Garden is located at 1221 Haddon Avenue, next door to the legendary Donkey's Place. This flexible outdoor venue was designed to inspire Camden households to grow new ideas about healthy food access before they grow their own food. The Learning Garden also showcases a variety of food growing methods and sustainability tools, such as demonstration rain garden, edible landscaping, raised garden beds, and more. The Parkside Learning Garden continues to expand its impact on urban horticulture in Camden, with additional investments planned for 2021 that will make it easier to provide for the essential needs of Camden food growers, including a tool library, seeds, and soil. On behalf of the Parkside Learning Garden, here's some remarks from Marion Jones.
Hello, my name is Marion Jones, and I'm a Camden resident, and I reside in the Parkside community. And I'm accepting this award on behalf of PBCIP and the Roots to Prevention program. The Roots to Prevention program is fantastic. I've been involved with it for about 3 or 4 years. I've learned how to garden, as well as all the particulars about learning to garden, our insects, how to get more fruitful and abundance of fruit and vegetables, as well as interacting with my community because I share my vegetables. And also, since we're going to have hubs in various parts of Camden, we not only can interact with our own community, but we'll also be reaching out to other communities in Camden, which is fantastic. So if you're interested in urban gardening, urban agriculture in Camden, you can contact Jonathan Wetstein at rootstoprevention.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Congratulations to all of the 2020 Camden Environmental Heroes. We love the work that you're doing. Thank you for your work and the joy that it brings to your neighborhoods and your communities. And we hope that it will be an inspiration to others so that we can have even more as we continue on with the Camden Collaborative Initiative. The 2020 Camden Environmental Summit, presented by New Jersey American Water, looks a lot different this year. We had to shorten it up a bit, but we tried to provide you with as much information as possible. And what a better way than five-minute fast talks from people in our community around issues that we all care about. We will have them one after the other, so just hold on to your seats. We will learn how can we all make fashion sustainable from Tarina Nicole Hill, founder of Gypsy Leather Goods. We'll learn about the Kramer Hill Waterfront Park. We've seen video of it, footage, and some of the remarks from earlier today from Michael Palmquist of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, followed by a presentation about water quality and lead awareness in Camden by Denise Venuti-Free of American Water. We will learn about our environmental heroes, Citizen Science Truck Traffic Project, Mike Morgan. And then lastly, we'll learn about the future of solving Camden stormwater issues from Scott Schreiber of Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority. If you're looking for more information in the bios of these great presenters, more will be shown after the summit on the Camden Collaborative Initiative's website at www.camdencollaborative.com. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Ms. Tarina Nicole Hill. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am Tarina Nicole Hill, and I am the owner of 2 businesses here in Camden. I'm happy to be here and speak with you today about one of my favorite topics, sustainable fashion. In the fashion industry as of late, there has been a lot of buzz about sustainable fashion because the general public is becoming more and more aware that the fashion industry is second only to the oil industry in the amount of pollution it creates for the planet. Me, as a designer of Gypsy Leather Goods, an eco-friendly line of accessories where I use recycled leather from discarded garments, giving them new life as home decor, handbags, and jewelry, I've been immersed in this reality for the entirety of my business, 12 years. But what is the responsibility of the everyday consumer? What can we all do to combat a problem that is literally destroying our planet? Well, we can begin with the main issue. Each of us individually throws out 70 pounds of clothing each year. Americans alone toss out 14 million tons of clothing annually into landfills. And textiles can take over 200 years to decompose. During that process, textiles generate greenhouse gas methane and leach toxic chemicals and dyes into groundwater and soil. This is a crisis for our planet. So what are some easy to implement solutions? As an instructor and owner of the Fashion Design Center South Jersey, located right here in Camden at 1366 Hatton Avenue, I'm on a mission to educate individuals on how to make their own clothing, or at the very least, mend or upcycle the clothes they no longer wear. I meet so many young people who have admitted to me that they toss out perfectly good shirts or jackets simply because it lost a button. They don't even know how to sew a button on. This is the sad result of home economic classes being cut from public schools. So, learning to make simple mends instead of discarding your clothing is one solution. Upcycling, which means remaking the garment by maybe changing out the sleeves or converting a dress into a jumper, is another easy solution if learning to make clothes from scratch isn't desired. And for those who aren't crafty at all, there are still solutions for you as well. Host a fashion swap by pulling your best unwanted garments, shoes, and accessories and have your friends bring over theirs and simply trade with one another. Serve treats and make a party out of it. You don't have any stylish friends to trade with? Well, you can always donate your clothes to the Goodwill and/or shelters. Clothing stores like H&M will take your unwanted clothes and issue a credit towards purchasing from them. And I know H&M isn't the best example because they have their own unfavorable practices, but they have implemented this program to improve, and I commend them for it. There is literally no reason to ever discard clothing or shoes. It may be easy or convenient to do so, but the long-term effect is disastrous for our planet. Thank you. Feel free to reach out and continue the conversation with me via email at tarina@tarinanicole.com or follow me at the Tarina Nicole on Instagram. And my websites are tarinanicole.com and fashiondesigncenter.sj.com. Thank you.
All right, Michael Palmquist from New Jersey DEP.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Palmquist, and I work for the Office of Natural Resource Restoration. I put together a slide for you, presentation for you, and I'm looking to see, I don't see it popped up just yet. There it is. So I work for the Office of Natural Resource Restoration, and our central mission is twofold here. We do natural resource restoration, and we also pursue natural resource damages against polluters. And sometimes as a component of that, there is a monetary settlement that is put towards natural resource restoration. Next slide. As Olivia mentioned before, there is quite a history on this 86-acre parcel. A brief background summary here: from 1952 to 1971, it operated as a municipal solid waste landfill. That was never properly officially capped or closed. Remediation began in 2012 on the 24-acre parcel that in 2014 opened up the Kroc Center. And then a series of years afterwards, the pre-design, the design, the bidding, and contracting was awarded in April of 2016 through 2018 for the remaining 62 acres. And this project itself, at the 62 acres, was funded by a MTV, natural resource damage recovery, that involved shoreline stabilization, landfill closure, natural resource restoration, and ultimately park construction. Next slide, please. So this was a typical shoreline. You can see that the refuse was very unstable and lapping against the actual water when the tides came in. Next slide. And a study showed that we had roughly 9 grams of PCBs leaching into the water per day. Next slide. This was the site when it was first cleared in May of 2018, to give you an example of what it looked like along the Delaware River. Next slide. And as we began, on the left-hand side was a condition in which it was very unstable. The arrows are giving you guys some reference points so that you can understand what the after looks like, which is on the right-hand side of this slide, with all the new native vegetation that was placed. Here is another great example of when it was completed, the transition from what it was to what it is now. Next slide, please. And then we began different components within inside the site itself. The tidal channel and the conservation island was created. Next slide. Our northern tidal wetland that had replaced all the phragmites with new native vegetation. Next slide. And then we began our fishing pond and plaza, the construction on the left, and what it's looking like on the right. Next slide. A drone view of the fishing pond and plaza looking towards the east. Next slide. And then our kayak channel that leads to the Cooper River from the pond itself. Next slide. So again, back to that May of 2018 picture, and the next slide turns into what we have now in September of 2020, a big change and a big difference. Next slide, please. Some of the facts and figures, again, $48 million was allocated to this project. Again, no tax dollars or federal funds were used. We manipulated about 375 cubic yards of material, planted about 379,000 trees, shrubs, and plants, and stabilized 3,200 linear feet of shoreline. Next slide, please. If you build it, they will come, and certainly they did. We've got already some turtles basking on our infrastructure. Next slide. Double-breasted cormorants go fishing in the morning in our fishing pond. Next slide. Even small fish are utilizing some of the fish substrate that we used for the pond. Next slide, please. The mallards are hanging out on our kayak launch, which is also built for all of us to enjoy the newly created atmosphere. Next slide, please. You can find opportunities to fish. Next slide. You can find opportunities to walk along the shoreline and enjoy all of the interpretive signs that we have placed along the property edges. Next slide, please. And there are playground and exercise stations for other folks to enjoy. Next slide, please. We've got a 13, the last slide was the picnic grove that we had created for everyone to enjoy some meals. Next slide. And a large summit vista boasting views of the Philadelphia skyline, the Cooper River, and the Delaware River itself. This park should be open at some point at the late 2021, and the site has to settle for about a year so that we can just address any inconsistencies with settlement that may occur. Hope to see you guys there next year, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now we turn it over to Denise Venuti-Free from American Water.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much. Mike, that was beautiful. What an amazing transformation. So good morning. I'm here to talk to you today about water quality and lead awareness. As you know, American Water is the water service provider for 2/3 of the city of Camden, and New Jersey American Water is the water services provider for 1/3 of the city of Camden. And the city of Camden owns and American Water operates its wastewater system, sewer system throughout the city. Next slide, please. And you can see that's a map of what I just said. So we're up in the New Jersey American Water is up in the Kramer Hill section, and the city of Camden has the rest of the city in terms of the water service, but it's operated by American Water. So what I want to talk to you today about is that, actually, if you can go back one slide, please. Thank you. Our drinking water, whether it's New Jersey American Water that provides your water or the city of Camden operated and maintained by American Water Contract Services Group, all the drinking water in Camden meets or surpasses all state and federal quality standards, including regulations related to lead. And we think that's really important for people to know. You don't need to buy bottled water. We want you to be assured that your water is safe to drink. We test and monitor at multiple points from treatment, from source to treatment through the distribution system and right to your homes. Next slide, please. So this is just an explanation of some of the sources of lead that can be found in your home. In addition to, most people think water, but it's actually one of the least likely sources of lead in your home. Lead paint, soil, playground, dust, different products that you might have in your home have been shown to have potential for lead exposure. Next slide, please. So this is a quick tutorial on the Environmental Protection Agency's lead and copper rule. Basically, it's incumbent upon all water providers to monitor the source water and determine if it's corrosive, which means that it could potentially help lead pipes leach lead into the drinking water. So the reason we do that is so that we know exactly what chemicals to use to treat the water to make it less corrosive so that that doesn't happen. The EPA established an action level of 0.015 milligrams per liter, which means that all water providers, when they do their lead sampling every year, we have to come in below that amount. If we come in at that amount in the 90th percentile of our tests, that means that we have to do other things. And that means we have to revisit the corrosion control chemicals that we're using. We have to educate the public about what they can do to help mitigate lead. And we have to look at the lead service lines to see if we need to replace any lines that are in the system. Next slide, please. So if you only remember two things that I say today, this is one of those things. And that is that when we sample for lead in the city of Camden, again, whether it's the city of Camden system that's operated by American Water or if it's the New Jersey American Water system in Camden, both of those 90th percentile results are far below that lead action level that I just mentioned. So there are 30 sample sites in the city of Camden's system and 8 sample sites in New Jersey American Water's system in Camden. And those test results are in front of you, and you'll see that one is 78% better than the action level, and the other is 87% better than the action level. So basically, these samples confirm that the treatment that we use is working and finished water meets those standards. Next slide. So even though the water that leaves our facilities and enters your home, it has been tested and does not have lead, there are ways that you can reduce your potential exposure to lead. And this is the second thing that I want you to remember. And that is that if you think you have lead pipes, one way you can help reduce that potential exposure is after 6 hours, if the faucet has not been used, for example, when you wake up in the morning, the water has been sitting in your pipes all night. What you want to do is let it run for 30 seconds to 2 minutes before drinking it or using it to cook. And one thing that we all do instinctively when we turn on the faucet is put your hand under it and feel for when it gets cold. That's actually a really good way to do it. When you feel a temperature change, that means that the water that was sitting in your pipes has gone through, and the water that's coming in now is directly from the system. So that's what we recommend. And also always use cold water for drinking and cooking. Hot water has the potential for more lead exposure than cold water. So let it run 30 seconds to 2 minutes or until you feel a temperature change, and then use cold water for drinking and cooking. Next slide. And so I just wanted to leave you with some additional resources. You can access your water quality reports. If you're a City of Camden customer, you want to go to awconnect.com/Camden. If you're a New Jersey American Water customer, go to newjerseyamwater.com under water quality. We also have a video that you can check out, what to know about H2O, all about lead and what I just talked about. And we've been conducting, with the cooperation of Camden Collaborative Initiative, a water quality survey. So if you're interested, we would love for you to take that survey, and that's available on the CCI website. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Up next, we'll have Mike Morgan.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So the purpose of this project was to adjust trucking on a residential section of Ferry Avenue, and the desire for that originated in a few different places, from the CCI air quality meetings and from Waterfront South community meetings, and also from a 2005 air toxic study that mentioned that diesel exhaust was an issue in the neighborhood. So defining the issue was kind of twofold, both that heavy truck traffic on a narrow residential road is not only a nuisance to many neighbors, but also that there are health impacts of having that in your neighborhood. And as a result, it was shaped in two different ways, to do a survey of diesel traffic on Ferry Avenue and to do a monitoring of black carbon levels, black carbon being the main emission from diesel exhaust. So why does this matter? Black carbon comprises a significant portion of particulate matter 2.5, PM 2.5, and is associated with asthma and other respiratory problems, and can also be a leading cause of premature death. So even though this is not the biggest source of pollution in the neighborhood, it seems like an approachable first step that could be taken. So the first part was the traffic survey. So observing almost 1,400 trucks on Ferry Avenue between Broadway and 4th over a 5-month period, which was between March and August of this year. And the purpose was to note companies, time of day, vehicle type, see if there's any patterns. And overall, the average was about 24 trucks per day, and at least 40% of that was specific to one local industry in the neighborhood, either directly or indirectly. And for the black carbon monitoring, I used AE51 ethylometers, which were provided by New Jersey DEP. So thank you, DEP. And the data from that is based on 60-second averages. And a few preliminary findings based on what we have so far was that the highest averages by the hour were between 12 noon and 4 p.m., which correlated with truck traffic also. And again, interestingly, between 7 and 9 p.m. And the original intention of the study was to collect data at different locations in Camden as comparison, but because of time, I ended up just doing it on Ferry Avenue. And another interesting note was that the averages on Ferry Avenue were always higher than the DEP monitoring station, which is at Spruce Street. So that just kind of notes a difference in the pollution levels based on location. So let's see, next slide. So one issue was how do we address the issue, right? So the good news is that in 2004, the city passed an ordinance designating certain residential streets in South Camden as being off limits to trucks, Ferry Avenue being one of them. The bad news is, as far as I can tell, the ordinance does not have any penalties or fines associated with it. It doesn't seem to be enforced by the police or any other entity, and it also does not define weight limits for trucks. So as a tool, it's limited both in its design and implementation. So the question was kind of what intervention to take with the issue. You know, should we advocate for increasing signage on the no trekking route? Should we encourage the police or someone else to enforce the ordinance? You know, but I opted for the most direct action, which was calling companies, both local and national, to notify them of the issue and ask if they would adhere to the existing trekking route, which is on Atlantic Avenue, you know, to kind of bring them in as partners as opposed to fighting them. And to their credit, some did. So there was a 30% improvement in the truck traffic over time. At the beginning, there were 26 per day, and at the end, there was only 18 per day, which is only a modest improvement. But the main issue was that while there's an improvement on Ferry Avenue, it's not necessarily a win for Camden as a whole because we didn't reduce pollution. We just took it for one road and put it on the other one on the existing truck route. So in terms of recommendations on the next slide, or maybe two slides, that's a picture of the trucking route. So to create a more equitable approach to a recommendation going forward would be to address the pollution coming from trucks that are going to be in the city, be it through potential retrofits or other ways of reducing the pollutions for trucks coming through. A lot of the oldest trucks that come through on Ferry are from local Camden businesses, so that's an opportunity for partnering with them to potentially find funding for retrofits and reduce the pollution that they'll be emitting while driving through the city. Other possible interventions or recommendations would be to revisit the existing no trekking route, as well as a citywide trekking route, because it's an issue with many neighborhoods, not just Waterfront South. And also to perhaps reinstate the DEP monitoring station in South Camden to get more localized air quality data as well. So what started out as a simple project can certainly turn into something bigger with the right amount of time and resources and data analysis. But I think starting small and incremental was key to having real understanding of the issue, and also it's helpful to know what interventions would be most helpful going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. If everyone, I know it's 12 o'clock, if you could bear with us for 5 more minutes, we have one last presentation, and I promise you that it'll be worth the wait. Like to turn it over to Scott Schreiber. Is he available? Here we go.
Hi, Mishka, thanks. Yes, I'm Scott Schreiber, the Executive Director of the Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority. And I'd like today to talk to you about using multi-benefit solutions with a focus on environmental quality to solve Camden's stormwater problems. First and foremost, the vision that I'm about to outline is based on the amazing work that Camden Smart has accomplished over the last 10 years. We wouldn't be able to have this discussion without the 60+ demonstration projects and tens of millions of gallons of stormwater the previous SMART projects have diverted from the Camden sewer system. Next slide, please. A brief recap of the last 5 years. In 2015, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection required all New Jersey combined sewage overflow communities to provide a plan to them by October 1st, 2020 to address overflow and flooding. Camden City, Gloucester City, and the CCMUA worked to put the plan together, which calls for the elimination of combined sewage flooding and the capture of 85% of the stormwater that falls on the cities so as to limit overflows. These requirements will be regulated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection via permits that will be issued to each entity every 5 years. Next slide, please. Of course, most people have heard the phrase that the flip side of a challenge is opportunity. In this case, the flip side of regulations are opportunity. To that end, the goal of the combined sewer overflow plan is to not only improve water quality, but to do so in the most responsible way possible. The goal will be to utilize green infrastructure as the top priority in controlling flooding and overflow by disconnecting 145 acres of impervious area from the sewer system at a cost of at least $50 million. The goal must be to utilize this opportunity and budget to not only address stormwater, but to create equitable outcomes and address multiple issues simultaneously. Next slide, please. As has been documented today, the challenges, both environmentally and socioeconomically, that face Camden City are significant. I'm not going to spend any more time on this slide except to point out the Camden Collaborative Initiative logo and the circle of issues on the right side. And the question becomes, how can we put green infrastructure in the center of a similar circle, and what issues can we help by completing green infrastructure projects? We're now at a point where the answer to this question should not be aspirational, but rather concrete and actionable. To answer that question, we're lucky enough to be able to turn to the Camden Collaborative Initiative for help in finding answers. As a clean water utility, the CCMUA is good at planning, designing, constructing, operating, and maintaining infrastructure, but we really need to rely on others to help us with planning and design of above ground infrastructure that will make lasting impacts on the community. The Trust for Public Land has recently completed the Green and Healthy Camden tool, which will allow Camden Smart to place infrastructure to have impacts on not only stormwater, but climate preparedness, health, equity, and open space. The tool uses cutting-edge science and GIS to help planners make decisions that address equity and multiple environmental issues collectively. Additionally, the Trust for Public Land and Coopers Ferry have worked in conjunction to create the 5-year parks plan, which aims at having a great park placed within a 10-minute walk of every resident's home. By leveraging the great work of these two partners, Camden Smart is in an advantageous position to start working on projects that can have a meaningful impact once the stormwater permits are issued. Next slide, please. We will focus the budget on equity, absorption, protection, and cooling, as these are the most pressing needs that can be addressed via green stormwater infrastructure. Next slide, please. There are two, here's one example, and it's kind of hard to see because of the size, but here's one example of a graphical illustration of an output from the Green and Healthy tool. You'll see that the red areas are those areas that are in need, that have high stormwater issues, flooding and other issues like that. And then the green areas are areas where there are parks. And so where we can work to identify where these are overlapping and where we can make beneficial impacts, not only to the parks themselves and to improve them, but also to reduce stormwater in these areas. Next slide, please. And here's another output. And this one, it illustrates that the red area are large percentages of low-income households. And then the various shades of green explain where parks are and what condition they are in and how much rehabilitation they're needed. So again, by being able to place a park, if you look at the Waterfront South neighborhood, there's a green spot at the bottom left hand of the corner inside that large red zone. That would be a good place to, that park also needs rehabilitation and also is in a low income neighborhood. So we would be able to provide stormwater relief, improve a park, and provide benefits to an area that's been underserved previously. By being able to locate the areas of focus using the tool, we can then take the next steps of planning the projects with the folks that reside in these areas we're working as planned. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the regulatory requirements necessitate the elimination of combined sewer street flooding and the reduction of combined sewage overflows into the receiving rivers. The opportunity that lies before the Camden Collaborative Initiative is how to accomplish these projects in a way that addresses environmental equity and justice in Camden City. So I really look forward to working on that with the CCAI as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. From all these projects, you can see things that are underway, things that are planned, things that are in progress, from the small scale to the large scale. And we hope that all of these talks have been an inspiration to you all to not only to get involved in your own communities, but take that, as Dr. Lanham printed out, take that look in the mirror and start with you. For final remarks, I'll turn it over to Armando Alfonso, our partner and our primary liaison with the New Jersey DEP, for final remarks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Armando Alfonso from the NJDEP. I am the Community Collaborative Initiative Liaison for the City of Camden. I'm here very quickly just to tell you guys what's next. And it's hopefully you'll get to join us at a Camden Collaborative Initiative meeting. They're generally held the second Wednesday of every month. And since COVID has occurred, we have moved towards a virtual setting, so it's even easier for people to participate. As you can see by the graphic, we have a water, air, land, and waste working groups. Those are 4. There's also one other that we work on as well in food access. Everyone is welcome, and we would like to hear from everyone, because most of the projects that you've seen today are built from one person's thought, and with the resources of the group, we're able to make them come into fruition. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll turn it back over to Misha.
I have to thank you all again for joining us today for the 2020 Camden Environmental Summit presented by New Jersey American Water. I also have to thank our other sponsors, Pannoni, the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters, the Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority, and Advanced Envirosystems. And final thanks go to my behind-the-scenes helpers, Ms. Beecher Chandler and Shaniqua Biles, who has been the primary coordinator for the Camden Collaborative Initiative in recent months. And we will miss her as she moves on to other endeavors. Thank you again. Please get involved and join us. You can follow us on social media on our website to keep up to date with what's happening. And we hope that you continue to join us, for those of you who are already working with us, and for new people to join in with the fun as we continue to improve the quality of life for residents in the city of Camden. We thank you and have a great day.